Hey everybody, welcome on our channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Nahida, Lumine and Nilou. Part 1. Huge shout out to REDLOX2 for this story. If you are new on the channel, don't forget to subscribe our channel and like the video too. So without wasting any more time, let's start the story. Naruto stood hidden far away standing in mid-air above the infamous golden house of Liu. He saw the jade chamber of Ningguang off in the distance along what could only be described as the giant water monster. His spiky blonde hair and whiskered cheeks were hidden in his brown cloak that hid his body. He had reluctantly decided to leave his orange hoodie back in Sumeru at the behest of his Archean. So, this is how an adepti feels in Sage mode, huh? Naruto mumbled as his eyes were in the traditional Toad-style Sage mode. There had been something in the air and water of Teyvat that was compatible with his chakra, allowing his safely to enter Sage mode, but Nahida had been vague on describing what it was. In Sage mode he could sense from very far away people life force is not just chakra. To him the adepti gave off large amounts of elemental energy similar to but different to vision users like Kiking. Each element had its own color in his senses. Pyro was red, Hydra was dark blue, Anemo was blue-green, Electo was purple, Dendro was green, Geo was brown, and Cryo was light blue. Naruto's senses saw adepti as white, which he assumed they could possibly use multiple elements or was a sign of their longevity compared to humans. He wasn't sure, but he doubted anyone could give him a real answer. So let's see. There is Xiao with his blue-green aura along with white glow. Naruto noted as he scanned each person one at a time on the jade chamber. Xiao aura was blue-green, along with white surrounding it, showing his Anemo vision and his adepti nature. There are 3 wide auras who must be Cloud Retainer, Mountain Shaper and Moon Carver. Naruto noted the 3 distinct shapes. There is the beautiful and elegant Ningguang. I wonder if she'd be willing to go on a date. Naruto mused, joking as a brown aura in the form of a tall mature woman appeared in his senses. The light-headed and hard worker Ganyu. She is also a beauty. She is proof that even half adepti retain their youth and beauty for thousands of years. Naruto noted as a light blue aura surrounded by white showed Ganyu with her adepti heritage and cryo vision, her tall and beautiful figure. The serious and feisty Kiking of the Kixing. She doesn't seem like the type who would want to go on a date, but hey, it might be funny to ask that as compensation. Would be a fun reaction. Naruto joked. He saw a purple aura in the form of a short woman with notable cat-like ears in her hairstyle. Now what the hell is payment? Naruto thought in frustration as he sensed a tiny figure that looked like a fairy surrounded in white. Now finally. The star of the show. Lumine, if I had met you first, I would have definitely traveled with you, but Naruto thought somewhat sadly. Lumine aura was white with splashes of brown and blue-green, unlike the others her aura came directly from inside her body, not from visions which leaked into a person when activated. Lumine and her brother have their natural longevity despite looking like they are rather young adult, and she currently holds Anemo and Geo powers of the 7 elements in her body. Naruto commented as the young woman with short blonde hair and striking gold eyes and a slender figure appeared in his senses. Now for the big boy. Oshul, the water god of old. Naruto stated as he sensed a massive 5-headed Hydra monster made of water. He turned off Sage mode and he could still physically see it due to how massive it was. Is it right to kill it? It does have feelings, and it has been over 2,000 years. Can it be left alone, and can we truly believe it will swim away without taking vengeance? Naruto asked, biting his lip in frustration. Even in this new world he would rather avoid taking life whenever possible. He would rather change someone's life for the better than end it. Naruto could sense the hatred of Oshul even from many miles away, and it was hatred directed at everything rather than any one person. What do you think? Kurama? Naruto asked his original tailed beast. TCH. Do you even need to ask? Your little god asked you to help these people who can't beat that sea drip god. Do you honestly believe you can talk your way out of this one? Kurama grunted, opening one of his eyes as he was currently half sleeping. So violence is the only way. Naruto mumbled sadly as he clenched his hand enough to draw blood. In mere seconds the wounds had healed. Kurama stared down at his AN3. Jinchuriki opening both eyes with a deep expression. Try if you want to give peace to that water god. You are probably the only one who even has a chance of talking this through. Kurama amended, scowling when Naruto grinned up at him. You are the best, Kurama. Naruto chirped as he exited the mindscape as Kurama rolled his eyes. TCH. To think the great fox demon would be reduced to this. Comforting his Jinchuriki over senseless matters. Kurama grumbled, closing his eyes, but with a slight smile on his face. Shit. Oshul is attacking. Naruto cursed as he saw the massive water god open its 5 mouths as beams of water gathered from each mouth. They won't be able to block it. Naruto said urgently as he looked up the direction of the mouths, and they were pointing straight at the jade chamber and towards the party standing on it. No choice. I have to use it. Naruto mumbled as he quickly went through hand signs. Vigirum snake. Naruto thought as he brought his hands up in the snake hand sign at the end. Wood-style deep forest emergence. Naruto shouted as he converted his chakra into wood from earth and water natures. Oshul had charged up its 5 heads, and the beams of water had combined into one massive hydro beam that was larger than the jade chamber itself. The party tried to bring their weapons in a defense with Xiao's spear materializing and his mask on his face. Ganyu had put up her bow charged with cryo energy, Keqing had her sword charged with purple electro energy, Lumine had her sword in front of her with Payman behind, Ningyuang had 7 stones hovering behind her controlled by geo energy. Is this the end for us? We can't stop it. Lumine thought in despair as the beam inched closer and closer right in front of her eyes. Much to everyone's shock and surprise, what appeared to be a sea or wave of brown trees came out of nowhere. The trees grew instantly and spread across the ocean, with the trees being so big and numerous it intercepted the hydro wave. The trees continued to grow as it became a barrier between the jade chamber and the hydro beam. The hydro wave hit the sea of trees, and despite damaging it slightly with a few trees getting chipped off, the wave of trees withstood the attack. Lumine could not believe her eyes when she saw the display as she put her left hand over her beating heart, which was beating faster due to the fear of death. What was that? Payman thought we were going to die. Payman screamed. Lumine put a hand over Payman's head as Payman whimpered but calmed down. The forest. Over the water? Keqing asked in amazement as the forest was growing over the water as if it was solid earth. Is this Dendro? Could someone really do this kind of power besides an Archean? Ningyuang whispered to herself. Look. Up on the trees. There is someone standing up there. Ganyu shouted as everyone looked over and saw a hooded figure with their back turned to the group. Did he create that forest? Lumine wondered as it seemed the person was a man due to their height and general figure. Oshul roared in anger at his blast being blocked before it tilted its head in confusion. Hey. Can you hear me? A man's voice echoed inside everyone's head. Is Payman hallucinating or do you hear a man's voice just now? Payman asked as she looked around. You aren't hallucinating, Payman. I heard someone's voice in my head just now. Lumine assured her companion. Telepathy? Connecting all of us and Oshul together? Ganyu guessed as the Adepti looked mildly impressed. Xiao's mask had been removed once they were not in immediate danger. Oshul. If you leave now and stay away from humans we shall let you go. The man's voice stated calmly, much to everyone's shock. What? Whoever you are, you can't just make a promise like that and expect Oshul to honor such a promise. Keqing yelled angrily. One is correct. Oshul terrorized Liu 2000 years ago before Morak sealed it away. One cannot reason with such a god. Cloud Retainer added sternly. The man seemed to turn towards them, but they still couldn't see his face due to the distance and hood. Oshul has been sealed for 2000 years. Nobody in Liu from back then is even alive besides Morax and the Adepti. Whatever grudge you hold for each other should have been long washed away. The man stated as he glanced from the sea god and the opposing group. Oshul seemed so surprised at what was happening, its heads tilted in different directions as if debating within itself. Isn't Morax dead? Why is that guy including Morax as a live group? Payman whispered to Lumine. SHH Payman. Now is not the time. Maybe he simply does not know about Morax's death yet. Lumine whispered back, but she did have a look of intrigue. Matter of fact, how did that man know to come here? Oshul was just released from its seal, but this man was still able to be here to intercept it, Lumine thought, biting her lip nervously. The man waited patiently, crossing his arms before he pointing his right index finger on his forehead. Please. I don't want blood to be shed here. I can understand why you hate Morax. He did seal you away, but the people of Liu are not your enemies. Everyone who was even alive back when you were sealed besides the Adepti and Morax are gone, the man stated confidently but with a notable pleading tone, as if he was desperate. That man, he is trying to reason with Oshul, Ningyuang whispered with some frustration in her voice. Why? We cannot be sure he won't come back and attack even if he leaves now. She thought with her eyes narrowed. Ningyuang, the Gizhong ballista is ready and charged. What will you do now? Moon Carver asked in his deep voice. Lady Ningyuang? Ganyu asked uncertain as she looked concerned when Ningyuang looked down at the floor of the jade chamber. Oshul's head swerved around before it roared in anger. Fire. Ningyuang commanded, much to Lumine and Payman's shock. Wait. Lumine shouted, trying to stop Ningyuang, but Xiao appeared and held her by the arm. No. This is the best way. Xiao stated calmly but sternly. The Gizhong ballista was a giant crossbow-looking weapon that had adjusted its aim somewhat to compensate for the vast forest of trees between the jade chamber and Oshul. The Gizhong ballista charged up and fired a massive beam of energy that soared above the forest and swerved towards Oshul. Fool. Stop it. You are making this worse. The man shouted but was too late. He didn't expect that anyone would attack at that moment. Oshul was hit directly with a beam, but rather than doing any notable major damage, it only appeared to make the sea god mad. It roared as the one head that was hit shook off the blast, and the heads turned to glare at the jade chamber. Oshul roared again and collected energy with its 5 mouths again, but rather than fire the energy in the form of a beam like before, it sent the energy into the sky high into the air. Moments later the energy split up into dozens if not hundreds of small beams of hydro energy that fall and smashed into the Gizhong ballista. Each beam managed to crack it slightly, but soon the collective beams cracked and destroyed the Gizhong ballista. This forced the Adepti who could fly to rescue the people who could not, with Payman flying on her own, as everyone landed on the nearby floating jade chamber. There goes the Gizhong ballista. Even it was not strong enough to damage Oshul much. Cloud Retainer stated regretfully. As soon as Lumine got back to her feet after giving Xiao a small smile for rescuing her. Lumine was frowning at Ningyuang who was biting her lip in frustration. Was that really needed? It seemed to be short-sighted and only pissed off the sea god. Lumine stated in annoyance, putting her hands on her hips. I must agree with Lumine. Was diplomacy truly not an option? Ganyu added as Keqing looked conflicted. Ningyuang sighed but looked resolute. I had to take the chance. I could not leave the possibility that he would attack first. Ningyuang justified, crossing her arms. Well, now Payman thinks we have a super mad sea god and no longer the weapon that could beat it. Payman added her 2 cents. Despite nobody saying it, Ningyuang could tell everyone agreed with Payman. You guys to think I used to be called bashful and hasty, and even I wouldn't attack someone like that during a peaceful talk. The man familiar tone sighed from behind them. Everyone turned around with their weapons drawn as the man with his hood was standing calmly behind them with his arms crossed. How did you get behind us? Ningyuang asked sharply as the man tilted his head hidden behind his hood, as if a bit amused. Just because you weren't paying attention doesn't mean I can't get behind you. The man stated cheerfully. Keqing pointed her sword at the man with a glare. Just because you helped us before doesn't mean we can trust you. Keqing stated. Yes. How can we trust someone who hides their face behind a hood? Ganyu added wearily as the man nodded as if agreeing with her. Fair enough. I can see your point. The man stated as he lifted his head up and lifted his hood off. The women resisted the urge to blush as an extremely handsome man was revealed with bright blue eyes that showed both amusement and exasperation with hint of mischief. He appeared to around Lumine age if not a few years older physically, with spiky blonde hair and very notable whisker-like markings on his cheeks. The name is Naruto Uzumaki and you can call me the First Sage of Buer. Naruto stated with a grin that made his face look like a fox. The woman looked away as his expression would be considered rather cute, but it was not the time to be blushing. Buer? The Dendroarchean. Moon Carver stated sharply as Lumine looked surprised while everyone else blinked in recognition. Yup. You can say I am her helper and leave it at that. Naruto stated with a laugh as if he was laughing at a joke only he understood. Wait. What is someone from Sumeru doing all the way in Liu? Payman accused as Naruto raised an eyebrow. Doing as my Archean asks and giving you guys a hand. Man, talk about a problem. Naruto claimed, shrugging his shoulders before his expression grew sharp. I was trying to talk down Oshul to maybe have a peaceful resolution like my Archean preaches, but thanks to Little Miss Quickdraw that is no longer possible. Naruto stated coolly as Ningyuang frowned at his tone. Excuse me? I merely acted in Liu defense and attacked a monster before we were attacked. Ningyuang stated as Naruto rolled his eyes. You would think being jailed essentially for 2,000 years would give you enough time to get a word in before getting shot at, but guess not. Naruto sighed. Even I know talking it through is no longer possible. So, I will do what needs to be done. Naruto stated with notable sadness, catching most of them off guard. Why do you feel sadness? Oshul is a monster who will bring ruin Liu if not stopped. We no longer have Morax to seal it away anymore. Cloud Retainer added. Naruto frowned with a look of disappointment as he looked over at the roaring god. Monster depends on who you ask. Monster really just means someone stronger than you are. To Oshul we are monsters who intend to slay him after he finally just woke up. Naruto noted before he shook his head. However, I will stop Oshul because I don't want innocent people to get caught up in a war with a god. Naruto added as he made several gestures with his hands. Snake ram hair dog snake. Naruto thought as he made the hand signs rapidly. Wood style. Wood dragon jutsu. Naruto thought as he gathered more wood style chakra into his hands. Instantly a massive wood being in the form of a dragon came out of nowhere and rushed towards Oshul. Oshul shot many beams of hydro at it, but it didn't slow down the dragon who rushed through the beams and managed to slam into Oshul. Oshul roared in pain as the wood dragon wrapped around all of its heads and clamped its mouth onto the main body, restraining it. He did it. I am not sure what kind of dendro that is, but he restrained Oshul's body. Payman cheered as Lumine looked impressed. One has never or heard of dendro being used in such a fashion. That man also created a forest of dendro on the ocean floor in an instant. Is it possible he has been blessed by the dendro Archean or perhaps secretly the true form of the Archean? Cloud Retainer thought. AN5. What do you plan to do? You cannot expect your dendro to restrain Oshul for long. Its body is made of hydro itself. Ningyuang added, trying to not show impressed she was with the stranger powers. I am going to suppress its powers so I can destroy it in one blow. Naruto stated as he clenched his hands together. I should be able to absorb its energy like Madara Wood Dragon absorbed Kurama's chakra. Naruto thought as his wood dragon bit Oshul main body harder, making Oshul roar in pain. For a few seconds Oshul and the wood dragon appeared to have a battle of wills as Oshul kept screaming in pain. However, Oshul seemed to get his second wind as it thrashed around much harder and its head smashed into the wood dragon neck. Soon the wood dragon lost its grip on Oshul body as Oshul water-like body eventually slid away and reformed outside of the wood dragon vicinity. Oshul gave a roar of victory as Naruto grit his teeth and let his wood dragon disappear once he sensed it was no longer helpful. No good. Oshul body slipped through. Kiking stated in frustration. Perhaps I could use cryo and freeze its body in place and get someone to take it out in one hit. Ganyu suggested, although she looked uncertain. Waste not your strength, Ganyu. You would need to freeze all its heads and main body at once for it to not slip through. There is no way to freeze such a large enemy at once. Cloud Retainer stated as Ganyu hung her head in shame. Damn it. Nahida was right. Chakra and elemental energy are too different for wood style to absorb the latter. If it was made of chakra I could easily subdue it with wood style, but it won't work this time. If anything, I doubt Sasuke Rinnegan could absorb its energy with the pre-top path either. Naruto thought in frustration. Child. Your dendro powers will not help here. Oshul cannot be restrained or subdued with dendro. We need a greater power that can destroy Oshul in one blast. Moon Retainer chided, although she looked at the forest in front of her slightly impressed. Where is your dendro vision? Payman asked as the visions of the various people sparkled as if resonating with her word. Naruto gave an amused look as if Payman said something funny before he looked down. My bad. My dragon has never had to absorb something like Oshul before. Naruto admitted, rubbing his head in embarrassment as everyone head dropped at his silliness. Are you for real? You came into this battle not knowing if that would work or not. Lumine snapped at Naruto, who shrugged. Hey, I couldn't know for sure until I tried. It's not like I practice on hydro slimes or anything. Naruto retorted as Lumine huffed at him. Sorry, but for the next one I will use. Naruto started before he looked up as if he heard something. What are you looking at? We are in the middle of a battle here. Payman yelled at him. Naruto didn't reply as he looked off into the distance before he nodded to himself. Sorry. I will need to tag out for a bit. Naruto apologized before he had a nervous grin on his face. Try to get along, okay? They aren't our enemies. Naruto added out of nowhere. What are you? Lumine asked before everyone took a step back out of reflex. Naruto whiskers had become thicker and more defined as Naruto teeth became more fang-like. Naruto sky blue eyes hot turned red with a slit as a dark pressure seemed to appear out of nowhere. DCH Naruto. You and that little god need to figure out a way to communicate so it doesn't leave your body sloppy. A much deeper voice chided as Naruto crossed his arms. Naruto. Wait, if you are referring to Naruto as someone else, Kiking stated with wide eyes before her sword pointed at Naruto. Who are you? Why have you taken over his body? Ganyu added sharply as her bow was summoned to her hand. Look over. Wrong. Kurama stated with a huff as he stretched his shoulders. We switched places so he could talk to that tiny god. Kurama stated, cracked his knuckles. Tiny god? Could you possibly be referring to the Dendro Archean? Ningyuang asked in realization as everyone looked up. My guess you do have a brain in that head of yours. Too bad you don't realize it is better to not make an enemy by attacking them first. Kurama stated condescendingly as Ningyuang frowned at the slight. Enough. Who are you? Lumine shouted defiantly as Kurama looked at her over with a raised eyebrow. Feisty. I think Naruto would like to mate with this one. Although I guess not till she found her brother. He is a sap and wouldn't want to distract her. Kurama noted with amusement. My name isn't important. All you need to know, like Naruto, I am not your enemy at the moment. You can simply say Naruto and I will respond in his place. Kurama claimed before he gave him a grin showing his fang-like teeth. Payman feels like we are missing a lot of context here. Payman decided to chime in her 2 cents as she hid behind Lumine. In that we agree, Payman. However, Naruto did save us from that first attack. Lumine thought with a conflicted expression. Meanwhile, Naruto opened his eyes as he was in a dream-like mindscape where there stood a rather beautiful woman with a mature figure. The woman had fair skin with pointed ears, large green eyes and long white hair in a style of 2 ponytails. One ponytail framed her face and the only went down to her waist. My lady. Lady Nahida, why have you summoned me? Naruto asked as he bent to his knee. Naruto looked up when he heard a giggle that sounded like a melody to him coming from Nahida. "Stop the formalities, Naruto. It sounds weird coming from you." Nahida chided, but she did put a hand up along with another giggle as Naruto rose to his feet. "As my lady commands." Naruto stated with a teasing and slightly mocking tone, making Nahida pout as Naruto gave a small laugh. "It's still a marvel we can connect in dreams when you are not wearing an Akasha terminal to send my power across." Nahida noted as she looked around them with wonder. "To me it's more a nicer version of the mindscape I share with Kurama." Naruto replied, making Nahida nod her head. "For us however it's," Nahida started as Naruto nodded. "Our meeting place." Naruto and Nahida chanted together as they gave a warm smile. "After all, chakra is a connecting power and dreams can connect people," Nahida added with her eyes sparkling. Naruto looked at Nahida for a moment before he tilted his head. "Is there something you needed? I can teleport to your side instantly after all." Naruto asked with concern clear in his voice and eyes. "That is so you? In the middle of a fight with a god and you are still only worried about me?" Nahida noted with a small smile. "Of course, I worry. You are my main concern. If there is anything you ever need, I will be there instantly no matter what I am doing," Naruto reminded her, making Nahida sigh. Nahida stayed quiet for a minute with her head down before she looked up at Naruto. "Naruto? Tell me honestly," Nahida asked quietly as Naruto worry grew, but he nodded. "Anything? I won't ever hide anything from you," Naruto assured her. "Am I weak?" Nahida asked looking up at Naruto sadly. What are you saying?" Naruto asked shocked with his eyes wide. "Compared to the 7 I am the weakest in combat strength. I can't help you fight Oshul or even tell you how to fight him." Nahida started before she gasped when Naruto ran forward to hold onto her shoulders. "You're kind. You are smart. You are honest. You care about all your people. You forgave those sages who intended to replace you. You never resented the people who thought you were a myth. You are far more than weak. You are strong because you have traits that more important than power." Naruto told her passionately as Nahida started to tear up. "I am the one who asked you to stop Oshul, but I can't even help you do it. I am useless to you," Nahida said sadly as her own lack of self-worth started to leak through. "Stop that talk. Don't even say it. Never say you are worthless or weak," Naruto shouted, making Nahida look up with surprise. "If you get hurt then I will help you," Naruto promised. "If you can't fight then I will fight in your place," Naruto stated as he briefly turned into 6-path Sage mode to show his resolve before deactivating it. "If you are in pain then I will help you deal with your pain," Naruto continued as Nahida blinked away her tears. "After all, we are friends, right?" Naruto asked as Nahida gasped and yautched a hand to her heart. "Ah, thank you, Naruto," Nahida whispered as she gave him a heartwarming smile before she gasped as Naruto brought her head to his shoulder in a tight hug. Nahida only took a moment before she wrapped her arms around him as he placed one hand on the back of her silky hair and the other over her back. Naruto let Nahida cry in his arms before she sniffled and simply enjoyed the hug. Nahida let out her inner insecurities from the years of isolation melt away as the person who saved her showed once again undying affection and loyalty. Naruto in return simply held the woman who gave him a purpose and reason to want to keep going in this world ruled by the 7. Back in the real world with Kurama, Lumine did not think she ever met someone like the spirit that was currently in control of the enigma called Naruto Uzumaki. She agreed with Payman that Naruto seemed a bit distant, but she could understand it was exactly ideal place to meet someone new battling an ancient god. She could even understand his frustration with Ningguang firing the first shot against Oshul when Naruto was talking him down. However, this new being seemed to be berserk if nothing else. "We don't use those silly visions to manifest our powers. Like that girl over there, we come from a different world, so the gods or whatever gives your powers do not control ours," Naruto stated as he gave a mocking smile, making Ganyu, Ningguang and Kikin glare at him for the silly vision comment. "Like me?" Lumine asked shocked as Payman looked between the two of them. "You are simply borrowing the power of the 7 inside of you. You are not using your true powers," Naruto stated dismissively as Lumine looked down at her feet. "I didn't ask, if only she didn't," Lumine mumbled in a hurt tone as Xiao put a hand on her shoulder for comfort. "Hey. That is mean. Lumine is looking for her brother. Don't be mean to Lumine," Payman snapped as Lumine sent her a small smile. "Payman," Lumine said simply. I didn't mean to offend. It's a simply fact," Naruto stated as he looked a bit uncomfortable seeing the blonde girl hurt. "Let me show you how Naruto and I use our powers," Naruto claimed as he looked over and pointed towards a massive ball of hydro shot towards the Jade Chamber. Naruto ran off the Jade Chamber and jumped towards the hydro ball, much to everyone's surprise. "What are you doing?" "Attack from behind the forest of trees," Kiking snapped. Naruto gave a fox-like grin as he soared towards the hydro ball. Naruto sent a roar just as the Hydro Bowl was about to hit him. The roar could be heard and seen from the Jade Chamber, as the Hydro Bowl was destroyed from just the roar itself. Impossible. He didn't even use elemental energy. He just sent a shockwave from a roar. Cloud Retainer said in shock. "Let's see how much fun you can bring me," Naruto shouted with a massive grin. Naruto shot towards Oshul as he flew at high speed towards the ancient god. Oshul sent ahead towards Naruto trying to devour him, but roared in pain. Naruto seemed to accelerate before he smashed through one of Oshul's head, destroying the head and neck just by passing through it. He destroyed one of its head just by running, thought it. Ningguang asked in shock and wide eyes. Naruto stood on top of the severed neck with an amused smile. "Heh. Is that all you can do? Shoot water and try to eat people?" Naruto mocked using his palm in a come-on motion. "Oops, almost got me." Naruto mocked as he flipped over as several blasts of water that hit the severed neck he was standing on. Naruto hovered in the air with his arms crossed as he watched Oshul regenerated the severed head with more water. "No good. It seems to be able to restore itself with the water surrounding it," Ganyu said with a frown. "We would run out of strength if we simply attack the heads one after another. If it can simply bring the heads back," Ningguang noted while she bit her lip. "What should we do, Lady Ningguang? We have to stop Oshul now or it will attack Liu," Ganyu asked desperately. Ningguang looked deep in thought as she sighed. "I can use that," Ningguang said, much to everyone's confusion. "Use what?" Lumine asked. "You have a super weapon, Ningguang. I never expected anything less from you," Payman asked with a cheerful tone. Ningguang had a conflicted look and was about to answer. "Huh? You have such a lack faith of Naruto, and by extension mine abilities you would insult me by attacking my prey?" Naruto asked in annoyance, putting his hands on his hips. Everyone turned around only to realize that Naruto was still flipping and dodging the various attacks of Oshul, and he had contacted everyone mentally. Peking scoffed at him as she pointed at Oshul, who seemed angrier the more Naruto dodged his attacks. "How can we trust you? You won't even tell us your name," Keking retorted as Naruto seemed to register that with deep thought. Oshul took the chance to once again fire a massive blast of hydro from all 5 of its mouth at Naruto, who blinked and rolled his eyes. Naruto took a deep breath and releasing a massive stream of fire that managed to meet the massive blast of hydro, and they seemed to be stalemated for a few seconds. Suddenly Naruto fire blast destroyed Oshul hydro blast and continued towards Oshul. There was a massive screen of steam as Naruto attack hit Oshul directly as Oshul roared in pain and anguish. Everyone braced themselves as there was a shockwave of steam emitting from the blast zone. Naruto waved his hand and the steam cleared, revealing Oshul's 5 heads were gone, leaving just its main body and legs. Slowly Oshul started to regenerate its heads, but notably slower than before. Incredible. His pyro overpowered Oshul hydro and even destroyed all of its heads at once, Ningguang noted before she shook her head. Wait, he claimed his powers are not from the 7. Perhaps it's his version of pure the element fire, Ningguang realized as Lumine nodded her head. Yeah, and he used some sort of air attack to clear the smoke. 2 unrelated, make that 3 with these trees. He really must be from a different world that has different abilities, Lumine noted with some awe. Hey. He is coming back. Payman's shout got everyone's attention. Naruto flew back and landed with a sigh. "Kurama," he stated, much to everyone's confusion. "Excuse me?" Ganyu asked politely. "My name?" I realized that Naruto would not want me to hide it if we swap places. "So here it is, Kurama," Kurama revealed as he looked solemn, crossing his arms. Payman had a huge grin as she hovered near Kurama and waved. "Hi Kurama. Was that so hard?" Payman tells everyone her name. Payman greeted with a cheeky smile as Kurama had a twitching eye. "I don't swap out with Naruto much. I rarely need to give my name to other people," Kurama explained with a slightly grumpy tone, making Lumine and Payman give him teasing smiles. Off in the distance one of Oshul's heads had finished regenerating and roared in anger and pain. "I hate those blasted Uchiha, but it would make this so much easier if I could use the damn Rinnegan and just trap that pesky water god in Chibaku Tensei. Although Naruto did say he wouldn't seal away Oshul, so I guess that would be breaking his word," Kurama mumbled with annoyance, crossing his arms. "Okay, Payman barely understood what you said," Payman replied with confusion along with everyone else. "Sorry. It's a bad habit I picked up from Naruto saying things out loud," Kurama claimed as he put his index and middle fingers on both hands together in a cross-like motion. Everyone jumped when there was a puff of smoke, and then another Kurama controlling Naruto's body appeared, stretching his arms as he nodded to the first Kurama. "Another you?" Xiao asked, intrigued. "An illusion?" Moon Carver asked with a raised eyebrow. This got annoyed looks from both Kurama, who looked incredulous. "DCH, do you think I would use such a tactic?" The first Kurama grumbled before the second Kurama grew a teasing grin. "Believe me, I am no mere illusion. Let me prove it," The second Kurama claimed as the first Kurama nodded. The second Kurama walked over to Lumine, who looked surprised when he tapped her on the forehead and yelped and indignant when he rubbed one of her bangs with his thumb. "You jerk." Lumine shouted angrily before she attempted to slap him, but he caught her wrist with his hand. He released her wrist when Xiao summoned his spear and pointed it at him. "Sorry. I just had to make a point. I am a physical clone. Not an illusion." The second Kurama claimed, raising his hands in surrender. "I think you made your point. Did you split your power in some sort of fission technique?" Ningguang asked dryly, looking rather unassuming but still impressed. "Shadow clone. It's just one of the handy tricks from Naruto's original world," the first Kurama clarified. "You're right. That little girl would make a good mate for Naruto. She might look like it, but her hair is well taken care of." Kurama Shadow Clone thought using telepathy to talk directly to his original. The original Kurama resisted, smirking. "Anyways. I am feeling nostalgic. We don't need to do it this way anymore, but might as well go old school," Kurama claimed as he put a hand out and the Shadow Clone put his hand over his. Soon everyone could feel a current of air as a blue energy formed in between the hands of Kurama and his clone. The ball could be seen rotating as it rotated faster and faster and started to grow. "Lumine. It's like your wind blade," Payman commented excitedly. Lumine looked down at the ball with wonder. "No. It's much denser and faster than my anemo powers. It's like a mini tiffin in the palm of his hand," Lumine admitted as Kurama smirked. "Kurama. Swap back," Naruto yelled from inside their mindscape. "You done talking to your little god lover?" Kurama asked teasingly. "Shut up and swap back," Naruto retorted. Naruto's eyes turned blue again and his whisker marks went back to their normal size. "Sorry about that. Kurama can be a bit bash and hard to deal with, but he means well," Naruto commented as he looked down at his hand. "I won't use this one," Naruto stated as the chakra dispersed and he waved his hand as if to readjust to using his body again. The shadow clone also disappeared as he nodded to Naruto in a puff of smoke. "Are you really from another world like that other you said you were?" Lumine asked seriously as her golden eyes stared directly at Naruto's blue eyes. Naruto rubbed his head nervously before sighing. "I guess Kurama didn't want to hide it, huh?" Naruto remarked before he nodded his head. "Yeah, I am from another world. A world completely different to this one, and I arrived here a few years ago and arrived in Sumeru," Naruto admitted as looked down at his hand as if remembering something. Ningguang looked at him as if she was thinking something over before she shook her head. "I have questions but they can wait. Can you defeat Oshul? We lack the power to deal with him in one blow," Ningguang asked as she looked down. "Unless I sacrifice the Jade Chamber itself, but I would rather not if all possible," she thought. "Yeah, I can. I will defeat him now. It can't be helped," Naruto stated as he got a look of determination. Naruto took a breath and released as he gathered up chakra. This had the effect of causing the water between him and Oshul to turn into giant waves and mini whirlpools. "Beep." Payman screamed as the sea itself seemed to bend to Naruto's will. Naruto's power is affecting the sea. It almost looks afraid, Ganyu thought as she stared down at the churning sea. "Here goes." Naruto said. He put his right palm out. Naruto jumped off the jade chamber and landed on the water edge. The water seemed to bend away from him, so despite the waves and whirlpools there was an area around Naruto where Naruto could stand and not be hit by the sea. Oshul seemed desperate as its 5 heads started to shoot beams of hydro at Naruto continuously with seemingly all its power. Countless beams of hydro rained down at the sea trying to hit Naruto. Naruto started to run, looking little more than a blur on the water surface. Wherever he ran, the water bent away from him as he outran the beams of hydro, no matter how many ran down at him. Naruto seemed to vanish and move from spot to spot even as dozens of beams rained down at him. So fast. He is sensing where all the attacks are coming, Xiao noted as everyone stared while Naruto ran. Halfway the distance between Oshul and Jade Chamber, Naruto appeared to vanish completely as dozens of beams of hydro converged at his location. He vanished. Kiking yelled in surprise. Xiao was the first to notice as he pointed at Oshul. "Behind," Xiao stated. Behind one of Oshul's heads was Naruto, who had ball of energy like before, but if you looked closely it was now brown and had strange markings all across the orb. Nobody could see, but Naruto's eyes were in the original Toad Sage mode markings. "Sage art. Magnet style Rasengan," Naruto yelled as he smashed the orb into Oshul's neck. Oshul instantly tried to turn around but froze to his horror. Strange markings appeared from the orb and quickly the same markings manifested all over Oshul's body and heads, and even some of the surrounding water had the markings. Oshul's movement stopped. Lumine shouted in surprise. Oshul's eyes were looking frantic, showing the god was not willingly stopped moving, but rather was frozen in some way. Naruto walked up Oshul's neck until he's standing on one of his heads and looked down at Oshul with sadness. Oshul's eyes glared at him, but even at this range it could not snap and devour his enemy. Naruto's hand sparkled with electricity as he contemplated stabbing Oshul before he sighed and let the electricity dissipate. "What are you doing? This is the perfect time. Finish him," Ningguang yelled. Naruto turned around revealing he could hear them before he shook his head. "I know. Just give me a minute. This is Oshul's last moment so I have to say something first," Naruto stated using telepathy and linking everyone on the Jade Chamber, himself and Oshul together. "What is this sadness I feel? It's not my own, but I can feel Naruto's eyes burning with regret and pain right in front of me," Lumine whispered as she clenched her heart as she could feel waves of sadness pouring into her. Lumine looked around, and everyone else had a similar expression as they felt waves of emotions pouring in from Naruto. It's just like before. Naruto's emotions are so strong right now it's actually flowing. It know the power he has linked despite it being only a voice link. Kurama thought as a memory of Naruto's emotions of various people flowed into the entire Shinobi Alliance when Ino used the Amanaka mind-body transmission jutsu. Naruto looked down at Oshul, and even Oshul's eyes widened when he saw two streams of tears flow down from Naruto's eyes down his cheeks. "I know what I am about to do is wrong. Even if it's to save people's lives and to stop the cycle of hatred from continuing. I am going to end your life right after you gain some freedom again, so I am sorry," Naruto told Oshul sadly as he clenched his hand drawing blood. Oshul's eyes looked at Naruto with confusion at Naruto, showing empathy for him at this point when Oshul's heart still yearned for revenge. "Goodbye Oshul the proud water god. May you find peace on the other side and be able to find the gods and mortal who already passed on," Naruto stated as he closed his eyes and blinked away his tears one last time. Naruto feels so sad. He doesn't want to do this. Payman noted as she could not help but feel bad. She felt waves of sadness flow into them. This boy, or rather this man, he doesn't seem to recognize it, but his raw emotions are bringing people to his side as rather than feel intimidated or jealous of his powers, we feel we want to help deal with his pain and loss. Ningguang thought as she glanced up at Naruto who only seemed a few years older than Lumine. He's sad but resolute in his duty. Xiao stated simply as despite just meeting Naruto, he already could feel like he wanted to fight side by side with him. This human is different than other humans. Not even Adepti have his power but still have endless compassion for life. Moon Carver noted to Mountain Shaper and Cloud Retainer who nodded. One cannot help but think he might be able to help the little one. Cloud Retainer mumbled as Shen appeared with an emotionless mask in her mind. "Lady Ganyu. We must find some way to reward this man afterwards," Keking told Ganyu who nodded. "Yes. He is a hero of Lee regardless if he thinks so or not," Ganyu agreed. "Naruto. I would like to speak more after this is all over," Lumine declared as Payman smiled and nodded. Oshul looked at Naruto with awe and shock before his eyes closed in resignation. "Here goes. The final attack," Naruto stated as he hovered off Oshul's head and flew until he was halfway between Oshul and the Jade Chamber. "Sage art," Naruto stated as he put his right hand out and chakra started to form in the shape of a ball. "It's that technique. No, it's something different," Lumine thought as she could vaguely see the energy gathered as it was creating a small typhoon around Naruto. "Lava style," Naruto continued as the ball of chakra turned red and got converted into a very hot ball of lava. "Raisen Shuriken," Naruto yelled as the ball of lava grew 4 prongs of energy, leaving the center the red ball of chakra and resembling a shuriken-like shape but on a large scale. "Yikes. Payman can feel it from here. So hot." Payman yelled as even from the Jade Chamber they were sweating to visibly sweat from the heat. "Goodbye. May we meet again," Naruto said one last time as he put his hand back. Naruto threw the lava Raisen Shuriken and it flew from his hand towards the bound Oshul, who had closed its eyes in resignation. Only Naruto's sage-enhanced senses saw tears drip from Oshul's heads before the Raisen Shuriken hit Oshul in the chest. "Brace for the impact and shockwave," Naruto warned as he glanced over at the Jade Chamber residence. Naruto vanished just as the Raisen Shuriken exploded after it cut through Oshul's body. "What?" Payman screamed as everyone closed their eyes as a massive explosion of heat and power erupted from the blast zone. Everyone had to cover their faces from explosion as heat and wind poured from every direction away from the explosion. It took a few minutes before it calmed down enough for everyone to open their eyes and move their hands from their faces. "Wow, such power. Is everyone okay?" Keking asked groggily as she blinked her eyes several times. Everyone gasped when they saw Naruto in front of on the Jade Chamber with his hands grasped together. They saw giant walls of earth in between the explosion and the Jade Chamber. The walls crept up from the water itself were hundreds of feet tall. The walls were damaged but weathered the blast. Amazing. He could summon those walls all by himself and in such a small amount of time. Surely we would felt much worse if hadn't summoned those walls to reduce the impact from our side. Ganyu said in amazement and gratefulness. Everyone was about to congratulate Naruto when Payman flew higher and gasped. "What's wrong, Payman? Lumine asked as Payman was stuttering. Look over there. Payman sputtered as she pointed past the earth walls. Naruto released his hands and clapped them as the earth walls shrunk and returned to the sea floor along the water to flow past the jade chamber again. Everyone's eyes became dinner plates and their jaws dropped. Miles from where the lava bomb had hit Oshel was now an island with freshly cooled lava. When lava hits water, it eventually hardens and turns into new rock that floats above the water surface. Naruto added with a smile. My attack destroyed Oshel completely, and the explosion of lava created an area of lava that the seawater eventually turned into an island. Naruto stated before he looked thoughtful. I know we are in Liu, but I did create island. I wonder if I could claim it in the name of Nahida. Naruto thought as he released the regret of killing Oshel and thought of the future. Peeking with her still shocked expression turned to Ningyuang. Lady Ningyuang. We must ally ourselves with this man. He is not to be Liu enemy. Keking stated firmly. I agree. He is a hero of Liu, that name shall be sung till the end of time. Ganyu added before a tiny blush appeared on her face which she shook off. Yes. Lumine, Payman and Naruto will get the highest honors despite not being Liu residents. Ningyuang agreed with a thoughtful expression. Can you deal with that first before you leave? Ningyuang asked with a frown and her hands on her hips. She was pointing at the forest of trees over the sea. Can we keep it? Payman thinks it's so pretty. Payman asked as her eyes sparkled in a cute way. No. Everyone else said with flat expressions, although Lumine was half-hearted. I think the forest is pretty cool. Lumine silently admitted. Geez. Nobody appreciates my art. Everyone is a critic. Naruto sighed dramatically as the human sweat dropped at him. In another afterlife, a certain explosion artist sneezed and started to grin, as if he could sense someone talking about art. Fine. Naruto said as he clapped his hands together. Instantly the trees withdrew into himself and vanished, leaving not a trace of the forest that was thriving just a few minutes ago. Does that hurt? It's just pretty bizarre to see. Lumine asked with her eyes a mix of worry and curiosity. Naruto grinned at her and gave a cheeky smile. Is dear Lumine worried about little old me? Naruto teased as Lumine cheeks got flustered. Xiao stepped in front of them with a stern look. Don't tease her. Xiao warned as Naruto put his hands up. Sorry. I didn't mean to offend. Although I will say you are pretty protective conqueror of demons. Naruto noted with interest. Lumine is my friend. You are hero to Liu, but you do not tease Lumine. Xiao explained simply as Lumine gave her friend a grateful smile. To answer your question, Lumine. It doesn't hurt. To me it's simply my life force either inside my body or outside of it. It doesn't hurt to bring it outside anymore to have that energy returned at me. Naruto explained simply, deciding not to bore them with the inner workings of Wood's style. Lumine nodded her head accepting the explanation. After it was clear Naruto was not going to tease Lumine again, Xiao returned to the Adepti who were standing a bit away from the humans of the group. So, we are done? Xiao asked simply with a small smile on his face. Yes. One has to reevaluate the power of mortals. Cloud Retainer noted as she glanced at Naruto, who was rubbing his head in embarrassment. You are simply so powerful. Maybe more powerful than an Archean. Payman exclaimed as the Moon Carver and Mountain Shaper scoffed. Maybe the Archean of Mondstadt, but he still would not defeat Morax at his prime. Mountain Shaper claimed flatly. Possibly. I haven't fought him before, so I can't say for sure how a fight with us would go. Naruto noted modestly. Ningyuang looked at him with interest, while Keking raised an eyebrow. Interesting, he doesn't deny the possibility of being on the same level or stronger than Morax. One of the oldest Archeans. Ningyuang noted as her eyes narrowed in a predatory way. Payman flew next to Naruto and patted his head as Naruto resisted twitching and annoyance. Don't let that grumpy Adepti get you down. You are way more reliable than the tone-deaf bard. Payman whispered as Lumine smirked, being close enough to hear Payman words. Is the Mondstadt Archean really that bad? Naruto whispered back in amusement. Nah. He is okay in Payman opinion and one of Lumine and mine first friends, but he is lazy. Payman explained as Naruto grew a thoughtful expression. Also he is a drunkard. Payman added as Lumine nodded slightly. I see. Naruto replied. It did seem odd that Barbados, or rather Ventinosis, was taken by a single harbinger. Perhaps he let it be taken. Naruto thought carefully. Nahida and him had used Erminsel, the World Tree, to view the moment where Venti's Gnosis was taken. They agreed it appeared odd, especially as Venti taunted Signora unnecessary during their brief encounter. Naruto Uzumaki. I must admit this amazing fight was not the first time I have heard of your deeds. Ningyuang told him, much to his surprise. Lady Ningyuang. This is news to me as well. I believe nobody in Liu has heard of this remarkable young man till today. Ganyu asked carefully. Yes, I am curious how you heard about him when no one else in Kixing has heard about him till he arrived to save all of Liu. Keking noted with a slightly annoyed tone at the possibility Ningguang was hiding information from the rest of Kixing about someone as powerful as Naruto Uzumaki. This is a bit surprising. I did not believe I was in Liu before today, so it's hard to imagine I would end up on the radar of the beautiful and powerful Ningguang of the Kixing. Naruto joked as Lumine and Payment snicked. Ningguang looked amused at his compliments. A couple of years ago there was a merchant from Sumeru who came here to sell his wares. While selling his wares he engaged in chat with other merchants and told tales of Sumeru. He spoke of a man who had recently came into Sumeru and changed everything for the better. The man supposedly had the trust of the Dendro-Archean and was seen walking by her as they walked the streets of Sumeru City every few days. Ningguang narrated as everyone turned to Naruto, who shrugged. It's not a big deal. I do what my Archean asks because I trust her judgment," Naruto admitted. Nahida. Naruto thought his memories as them walking the streets of Sumeru and even him teleporting them spot to spot in the desert. We can't forget about the desert people just because they are a bit rougher than the civilized city people. Naruto thought as Dehyu greeting them appeared in his mind. He told tales of a man who could create a forest in the middle of the desert and create great lakes with just a wave of his hand. The merchants of course dismissed his tales as boasting, but it did interest me when the tales reached me, Ningguang admitted. Likely through her little children acting as informants in Liu. Keking noted. I did not mention it as even I had trouble believing the tales. I have not heard of Dendro being able to create forests like that in a place like a desert, let alone lakes as well. The big thing was that no single person could use both Dendro and Hydro together in the first place. Let alone to such a degree. Ningguang admitted as everyone nodded. One must agree it would seem ludicrous to hear such tales. Cloud Retainer. But it now makes sense if the man was from a different world and did not follow the rules on elemental powers in Tavid. Payman added. Seeing you in action and despite not seeing you use your water powers, I now believe it fully that you are the man the merchant spoke of. Your prowess is the only person I could think would match the story. Ningguang inquired expectantly. I am not as great as the merchant thinks I am, but I can't lie and say I haven't done my best to make the desert region of Sumeru a better place to live for its citizens. Naruto admitted after a minute of silence. For me the desert people are just as much my Archean's people as the forest people or the city people, so to deny them help is simply wrong. The Dendro-Archean agreed, so I have been trying to make at least some places in it, not simply a hot mess. Naruto added as he took a deep breath. Although the Adepti looked at him like he was a bit naive, everyone else gave him varying looks of respect. Payman actually started to cry and flew onto his head and started patting him much to his annoyance. You're such a good guy. Payman thinks you are so generous. Payman declared as Naruto awkwardly patted her on the head. I simply doing what I think anyone should do that has power. To help people whenever they can. Naruto explained modestly. For me. Every person in Sumeru is someone of my family. I mean besides mean people like unruly mercenaries or people who hurt other people. Naruto added with a chuckle. Family huh? I am guessing family members also want to jump you and have your kids. Like a few certain women we both know. Kurama teased from inside of Naruto's seal. Shut up Kurama. Naruto replied in an annoyed tone, but he didn't deny Kurama's accusation. Far away in Sumeru several women sneezed at the same time. A rather beautiful tan-skinned woman with blue hair and with a dark blue right eye and golden yellow left eye looked amused from her post at our village. A tall light-tanned woman with dark brown hair smirked as she was standing on guard for her ward Dinyarzad. The very pretty red-haired dancer squeaked as she was practicing a special dance she intended a certain someone to watch when he returned home. The Dendro-Archean herself giggled as she looked into the distance as if she could sense Naruto's presence. Nilou spun around and had a massive blush on her pretty face. She was rather popular in Sumeru City, being a dancer with nice figure and a dancer outfit, exposing her well-toned and thin stomach. Many men desired to date her, but she only had eyes for one man, but would politely decline anyone else for asked for her private time. She was considered Sumeru's own version of an idol and model. Was Lord Naruto talking about me? Nilou squeaked as she started to pace back and face with her red almost as red as her pretty red hair. She put her hands together as she nervously intertwined her fingers and started to rub her cheeks. I know Naruto-sama told me to not add the Lord to his name, but he is so amazing. He cares so much about us and always makes time for even someone silly like me. Nilou stated with a dreamy sigh as she imagined Naruto's smile making her heart throb and her cheeks turn red and blush. Nilou aqua blue eyes that contrasted with her eyes started to sparkle and shine. If Nilou wasn't so distracted she might have noticed Nahida in her mature form, watching with an amused smile around the corner. Behind her hidden but not really hidden was Sino watching for any danger that might fall on his Archean. Sweet little Nilou. If only your fan club could see you right now. Not some unattainable prize but a schoolgirl who is in love with a guy who makes your heart throb. It is rather sweet to be honest. Nahida stated with a smile as she put a hand over her own heart. Not that I can say I am any better. Nahida silently mused as Naruto's warm smile and hug made her own heart throb and beat much faster than before. To think just a few years ago Nilou dances were considered silly and inconsequential with the academia in charge. Not worth well use of time as stated by the sages. Now her dances are the hottest entertainment in Sumeru City. Nahida remarked smiling at the irony as she glanced at Nilou who was still blushing and mumbling to herself. HMPH, Naruto. You brought these changes to Sumeru that has brought happiness to all people across this land. You really are something special. Sino stated with a small smile. I suppose if anyone deserves multiple women pining for your attention it would be you. Sino remarked not at all offended that his friend had multiple women falling in love with him. Nilou still did not notice Nahida nor Sino and started to dance with more sensual movements as her body moved as her heart remembered how warm Naruto made her feel. Every interaction she had with him filled her with so much joy and every compliment made her feel like she could do no wrong. I wonder if Lord Naruto will allow some of his time to watch my new chance. In private. Nilou wondered as her cheeks blushed at the thought of being alone with Naruto while her dancing was getting more intimate than the dances she showed in public. Nahida silently giggled watching Nilou with a smile. It would be pretty mean to spy or rather listen in, but it would be rather funny to hear Nilou be a girl her age instead of a model. It is rather sweet she can simply be a girl in love rather than this model people want to date just because of her body or her popularity. Nahida mused. Now I wonder if Naruto is getting some sort of reward for helping Liu out. Nahida thought before she frowned. Morax and his followers better not stiff him. He is my most trusted comrade. He deserves the best. Nahida stated as her eyes narrowed at the thought of Liu trying to disrespect her Naruto. Nahida's eyes even flashed green with power and annoyance. If anyone insults my god or friend then they shall face judgment. Sino silently promised as his electro-vision seemed to hum with power as it sparkled purple. Back outside of Liu. Diamond hovered and clapped her small hands together in excitement. Yay. We are done right. Payman could go for a bite to eat. Payman chanted as she hovered around Lumine with a pleading expression to her amusement. Ningguang gave a small smile as she nodded her head. Don't worry Payman. You three will be treated very handsomely along with everyone here. You have my word. Everyone is here as true heroes of Liu. Ningguang promised as she looked over at Keqing and Ganyu out the corner of her eye. Of course. It would an honor to treat you well as the least we can do. Ganyu added with a bow ignoring Cloud Retainer, giving her a disapproving look. Ganyu, you should not bow your head to mere mortals. You are an adepti and we should always speak directly in one faces not with our heads bowed. Cloud Retainer told her reproachfully. Ganyu resisted rolling her eyes as she lifted up her head and choosing to ignore the senior adepti. Lumine looked at Xiao who was looking off in the distance with a distant look. I wonder if Xiao will join us. Maybe it's not his kind of thing. Lumine thought as she got ready to walk when she noticed everyone else was about to. Wait. Naruto stated as he stopped putting his hand out making everyone stop to look at him. Is something the matter? Keqing asked politely but with a hint of impatience. She turned to him with her hands on her hips looking at him with a neutral expression. Sorry. There is one thing I want to take care of now as soon as possible, now that the fighting is over. Naruto explained with rubbing the back of his head in apology. Naruto turned to Lumine and used his hand to beckon her over. Lumine. Can you come over here? Naruto asked kindly as Lumine blinked. Okay. Lumine asked uncertainly as she walked over till she was just a foot away from Naruto. Okay, now can you turn around? Naruto asked seriously. Lumine got annoyed as her cheeks turned red with embarrassment as she leapt away. Xiao stood in front of her protectively as his hand was in front of him. Payman giggled and flew around. Ningguang, Ganyu and Keqing gave Naruto disapproving looks. Naruto blinked before he realized how his words could have sounded and waved his hands in surrender. No. I didn't mean that in a perverted way. I swear. Naruto tried to assure them while Lumine still frowned at him with her arms over her chest. I just wanted to heal Lumine left shoulder and back. Naruto promised as Lumine eyes widened. How did you? Lumine asked as her right hand now rested on her left shoulder. You're hurt? Xiao asked with notable concern as Lumine tried to give a reassuring smile. When were you injured? Ningguang asked calmly as she looked Lumine over with concern in her eyes. Beep. Did you get hurt fighting? Chilled Payman squeaked as she rushed over to Lumine who grimaced but nodded. That harbinger. Something must be done about him. Ningguang thought sourly as her mind was already trying to think of someone to punish him for his actions against Liu. Payman is sorry. Payman didn't notice. Payman cried as Lumine patted her on head comfortingly. It's okay Payman. I didn't want anyone to worry. Lumine admitted with a sigh as she winced slightly now that she could show pain. How did you know about Lumine's injury? Keqing asked with hint of suspicion and a frown on her face. Naruto sighed as he gave Lumine a look of sympathy. Lumine hides it well, but I noticed her favoring her right arm and hand a bit more. I can assume she took some damage with the Harbinger chilled before Oshul was revived. Naruto explained as Lumine looked sheepish. Don't worry, I can heal the pain. I just need to make some physical contact with the injured part and it's easier to touch your back when I am facing it. Naruto explained with a teasing tone at the end. Lumine looked away with slight red cheeks for overreacting as Payman giggling was met with an unamused look from Lumine. Thank you. Lumine mumbled before giving him a look of gratefulness. Lumine then walked back to Naruto and this time turned her back to Naruto who hummed as his hand glowed blue. Naruto chakra did not take the typical green color of medical jutsu, not that anyone actually knew that. Lumine has a very interesting style of dress. She is pretty conservative all things considering with the amount of skin she shows, but her back is pretty much fully shown besides the bow keeping up the dress up on her body. Naruto mused as he took a quick peek at Lumine back. This is healing chakra. An art refined in my homeworld where ninjas can heal various wounds by adjusting our chakra for restoring and regenerating damaged cells. Naruto explained as he gave them a warm smile. His explanation and smile distracted people from Naruto checking out Lumine's back briefly. That is pretty cool. Whenever Barbara heals Lumine or Payman we get splashed by some water. Payman exclaimed as Lumine giggled. The Petty raised their eyes while Ningyuang nodded planning to write this information down for later. Ha! Mondstadt's famous idol gets her fans wet when she heals them. Naruto mused before a chuckle came out. Although I think her fans wouldn't mind that for even a slight touch from her. She is a rather pretty young woman. Naruto mused having heard of the young idol. Naruto placed his right hand on Lumine's back as his hand glowed brighter now that it was pressed against Lumine's injuries. Lumine gasped expecting it to be cold, but the chakra was warm and inviting, as if getting a warm massage and somehow as bath at the same time without the water. How does it feel? Payman asked as she floated and looked at Lumine's slightly flushed cheeks. Really good. I can feel all my stress and exhaust just melting away. Lumine admitted as she gave a sigh of contentment. Is it bad I would ask for this kind of healing again if I ever scraped my knee? Lumine silently thought as she was blushing as this somehow felt rather intimate despite his hand only being on her upper back. Naruto chuckled as he removed his hand from her back as the glow around his hand stopped. Lumine resisted the urge to whine, realizing it would sound very childish if she wanted Naruto to heal her more when she just got healed. I see. I never really experienced that when I got healed by healing chakra, but maybe it's something so new that everyone here experiences the positives of it more than people in my world. Like they appreciate it more because it's not widely available here. Naruto mused as he took a thinking pose to muse it over. Ningyuang nodded as she crossed her arms over her bust. That does make sense. It would seem fairly mundane to someone from your world, but rather different for David. I can only assume there are things we do here that would seem extraordinary to people in your world. Ningyuang noted with a smirk raising an eyebrow in interest. Ningyuang is probably for information even now. She is really sneaky. Lumine noted as she glanced at Naruto who looked amused. Who knows? Naruto teased with his own smirk. The fact that people can manipulate and create ice without a bloodline is pretty extraordinary to ninjas. Naruto admitted to himself. Lumine then turned so she was facing towards Naruto and then bowed before giving him a warm look of appreciation. Thank you for the healing. I do appreciate it. Lumine told him with a smile. Naruto grinned as he leaned over so there was barely a foot of space between them. No problem. Anything for a pretty girl like you. Anytime you get injured you can ask for my help. Naruto flirted as Lumine started to blush. Her face only got brighter red when Naruto bowed and lightly grabbed her hand with his right hand and placed a small kiss on top of it on the exposed part of her glove. His lips briefly touched her hand as Lumine felt her heart throb as she resisted blushing like a schoolgirl. It was a rather chivalrous action, but Lumine felt her body react as she could start to feel her face heat up. Naruto leapt backwards when Xiao Spear tried to skewer him as he laughed even as Xiao chased him with an annoyed expression. The Adepti looked flatly at Xiao chasing Naruto, while Kiking and Ganyu sighed at the actions of both Naruto and Xiao. Ningyuang looked rather amused as Lumine looked away with her cheeks still rather red. Payman floated to her face with a rather huge grin and teasing look. So when is the wedding, Lumine? Payman asked as she flew above Lumine half-hearted swing of her fist. Lumine's face now only had pink, but she's still rather breathing hard as her chest was pounding. What are you talking about? Lumine demanded as Payman kept flying just out of reach of her attempts to catch her. I mean you have never blushed like this before while Payman has known you. Payman has seen several boys flirt with you, but you always let them down politely. You seem to like Naruto's attention for you. Payman noted with a tilted head. Lumine huffed crossing her arm and pouting refusing to answer Payman remarks. I don't have time for romance. I need to find my brother and we will be leaving this world. Lumine hissed as Payman looked amused as Lumine didn't deny having feelings for Naruto. Okay, that is enough. We are adults here, not children. Ningyuang stated, hiding her amusement with a stern look as Ganyu and Keqing also nodded in agreement. Naruto looked in their direction as he caught the tip of Xiao's spear, with his right index and middle finger not being damaged at all. You are not hurt. You were not going to get hurt. Xiao noted simply as he pulled his spear back and made it vanish. Nah. I am pretty durable. Naruto stated, waving his undamaged hand in front of his face. He turned to Lumine, who had managed to get her blush under control, and tried to look stern at him, but she was secretly resisting looking away from him, remembering the feel of his lips on her hand. I apologize. It was rude of me to do that out of the blue. Naruto apologized as he bowed with a sigh. It was something spontaneous I wanted to do, but I know I shouldn't have done it. Naruto admitted as he kept his head low. Lumine looked uncomfortable before she sighed. Lumine placed a hand on his shoulder and patted his shoulder, letting him know it was okay to stand. It's alright. I just didn't expect it. Let's forget about it. Lumine told him as she looked away when he gave her an easy grin. Keqing was frowning with her hands on her hips. Does he do this with every pretty girl he meets, or is her a jockster trying to get a laugh? Keqing thought with a tad of jealousy and insecurity which she refused to acknowledge. Ningyuang looked amused at the shorter woman and could seem to almost guess Keqing thought based on her expression. If I didn't know better, I would say Keqing is jealous she is not the one who is getting affection from our hero. Ningyuang mused, rather amused. Ganyu was looking at the human leaders of Liu with a look of confusion. Is this the standard greetings human males give to their friends? Everyone knows me and gives me quite a bit of reverence, but none have so blatant or bold to kiss my hand. Ganyu thought naively, not really understanding human traditions. Moon Carver gave Cloud Retainer a dry look, who was looking at Naruto with interest. If he intends to mate with that one, he should just outright say it. Humans are so strange in their interest to continue their species. Moon Carver whispered dismissively as he assumed a large part of having romantic interests for humans was to continue their lineage and species before their relatively short lives ended. Pooey. Payman will get you to admit your feelings someday. Payman promised as she flew away when Lumine growled and tried to grab her. Naruto gave a chuckle before he turned back to the group. Sorry about that. We can go now. Naruto stated as he waved a hand. Indeed. We will need a few days for the Kixing to get the information correct. We do not want panic or rumors to spread, as it was a major event no matter how short. Ningyuang stated as she looked at Keqing and Ganyu, who nodded. Yes. We will need some time to get the official story straight. Ganyu agreed. Maybe this incident can finally put some pressure on Snezhnaya so the number of Fatui can be reduced. They have been getting fairly blatant with the so-called diplomacy. One of their harbingers did summon a sealed god within the borders of Liu. Ningyuang thought with a satisfied smirk. Very well. We shall let you humans settle the matter how you please. Cloud Retainer stated, formally looking at them sternly. Know this. If we feel there is not an appropriate response done, we shall make our voices heard. Moon Carver warned with a frown. Ningyuang and Keqing looked annoyed at the warning, but nodded stiffly. Ganyu sighed, feeling like she was stuck between a rock and hard place. Good luck. Xiao stated simply with a nod. Ai Xiao. By Adepti. Payman chanted cheerfully with a wave. Ai Xiao. Lumine added, with Naruto adding his own wave. The Adepti didn't respond, but Xiao did give a nod. Xiao vanished in a torrent of wind while the other Adepti flew off. That is pretty cool. It's like the body flicker jutsu. Naruto thought with amusement. Naruto looked embarrassment as he rubbed his head. If a ceremony or whatever is going to be a few days, is there somewhere I can stay? Naruto asked with a nervous chuckle. I don't really want to travel back to Sumeru and back if there is something happening here. Naruto admitted. It wouldn't exactly be good for them to know I can teleport all the way here and Sumeru instantly, at least right now. Naruto thought. Naruto turned to Lumine and Payman, who blinked. You guys are travelers, right? What have you been doing while in Liu? Naruto asked curiously. Payman and Lumine looked a bit embarrassed to be put on the spot. We just camp outside. We brought some camping supplies back in Mondstadt. Lumine admitted as Naruto looked thoughtful. Nonsense. The least we can do for our heroes is give you room and board during your time in Liu. Keqing stated with a smile. Right? Keqing asked somewhat challengingly at Ningyuang, who looked slightly offended. Of course. I shall reserve 2 rooms for you 3. Payman and Lumine can share a room while Naruto can have his own. It shall be paid for as long as you need it. Ningyuang promised. Really? Thank you. Payman chanted as she flew around happily. Yes, thank you very much. Lumine stated with a pleased smile. Naruto looked conflicted as he looked around. Are you sure? I mean, I can easily pay and everything. It just feels a bit much for me. Naruto admitted as he was about to summon one of his wallets to pay for the mora. Banyu shook her head and waved her hands. It is of course alright. Liu would not be still around without you. We owe you three a debt that we cannot repay. The least we can do is make sure you are comfortable when you come to visit Liu. Ganyu stated with a rare sign of confidence. I guess I can't say no to a pretty woman. Naruto sighed, letting the issue go. Banyu blushed somewhat at his comment but didn't reply. Ningguang smirked as she walked up to Naruto. She was close enough Naruto could smell the hints of her perfume and the smell of her lovely long hair. If you feel guilty you can always move here. I would make sure you would have a job you would enjoy and you would not have to feel like it's charity. Ningguang suggested with her lips turning into a somewhat seductive smile. Her eyes looked expectantly at him and with her mature figure most men would have instantly said yes. Payman is afraid. Ningguang is scary. Payman whispered to Lumine who could only nod. She is quite persuasive. Lumine thought as Ningguang seemed to know exactly what to say and do to make people listen to her. Naruto was amused as he gave her a sly smile in return. I won't say I am not tempted. It is hard to say no to a beautiful woman like you, Lady Ningguang. Naruto admitted as his eyes looked down to her glossy-looking lips. But Sumeru is my home. I have already pledged my life and my soul to the Dendro Buer. I will never move anywhere else or go against her or the people of Sumeru. Naruto stated as he stood back with a look of determination and pride. Ningguang sighed but nodded. I understand. Shame that loyalty would be worth so much in Liu. We could use a man like you here. Ningguang stated with a hint of regret. Naruto gave a sorry look as he stated sorry, but my mind made up. Out the corner of his eyes he saw Ganyu and even Keking look slightly put off by his answer, but what surprised him was Lumine looking somewhat relieved. I can understand strictly from a pragmatic view that the Kixing would want me to stay in Liu. I am far less likely to betray a land I call home and I would be a useful military asset. Naruto admitted as despite how much he hated it he had learned that Jinchuriki had similar ideology put on them. TCH. You are overthinking this. That woman is simply grateful and thinks seduction techniques will work on you to stay here. Kurama added his 2 cents which Naruto merely hummed at. Eamon was floating and looked down past the jade chamber and looked back to the group. Eamon hates to ruin the mood, but how do we get back down from here? The Adepti already left. Payman pointed out. Thought maybe we should have asked for a ride down before they left. Lumine remarked as she doubted she could just leap off and land. She had a glider from her friend Amber, but it was a single-person use and she doubted the Kixing were carrying any of them. Ningguang was about to answer before Naruto coughed. Everyone turned to the blonde male who waved. I am sure there is a secret passage or mechanism to allow you to get back to Liu, but I have a quicker way. Naruto announced much to the surprise of the group. Ganyu looked uncomfortable. Are you sure? You have already done so much for us already. Ganyu asked nervously as Naruto smiled at her. Naruto resisted kissing her hand due to how cute a beautiful half-adepti woman was acting. It's no worry. Anything for beautiful women like yourselves. Naruto stated chivalrously with a bow. Keking fed with a slight blush on her cheeks, Ningguang gave an amused smile, Ganyu blushed and looked down at her feet. Payman just flew around not understanding what the bug deal was, while Lumine looked away with red cheeks, still remembering the feel on his lips on her hand. Whatever. If you want I suppose I won't complain. Keking stated stubbornly with a pout. Sundeer type huh? Makes sense for someone like her. Being so bust and full of responsibilities. Naruto thought with amusement. We just need to be connected in some way so if everyone can just put your hands on my shoulders or hold onto some part of someone else so I can move us all in one time. Naruto requested. Everyone looked at each other before nodding. Payman landed on Lumine's hair, making her hair get ruffled a bit. Lumine put a hand on Naruto's shoulder, Ningguang stepped close so her mature body was pressed against Naruto's arm. Keking rolled her eyes and grabbed Ningguang's arm while Ganyu blinked and grabbed onto Naruto's shoulder. The remaining Milliliths stumbled onto their feet and made a chain to connect each other as the first one nervously put a hand onto Ningguang's shoulder. Naruto gathered chakra and made a quick hand sign. Body flicker jutsu. Naruto thought as the group was covered in a big puff of smoke and vanished leaving just the smoke in the jade chamber. Lumine blinked and saw they were back in the port of Liu Harbor. She looked up and saw the jade chamber far into the distant sky. She turned around when she saw the Millilith soldiers hurling into the water. Part of felt sympathy for the soldiers but part of her was trying to avoid smelling the hurl coming from their stomachs. The vision users, Payman and Naruto looked fine, but the 3 women from Liu were looking pleasantly surprised at being back on the ground. It's called the body flicker jutsu. It's high-speed movement used by ninjas by focusing chakra on a location in our mind. Naruto explained as he stretched his shoulders. So, teleportation. Payman decided to ask excitedly as she hovered over to Naruto. Naruto gave the so-so sign with his right hand and shrugged. I guess if you want to think about it this way. I like to think it's just dashing really quick in a burst of speed. Naruto stated his opinion. Ningguang hummed and gave an impressed look. I suppose thanks are in order. Now we shall see you in a few days for the celebration on Liu surviving the revival of Oshul. Ningguang stated warmly as she beckoned the Millelith to follow her as they groggily did. Along with honoring the heroes of Liu as well. Ganyu added with a bow as she walked off. You will also have to address the passing of Morax, right? Naruto asked as Kiking winced before walking away. Do women in Liu not wear pants very often? It seems everyone wears skirts and stockings. Naruto asked himself as she briefly watched the women walk away. Naruto's eyes drifted back to the unimpressed Lumine and Payman who was giving him flat looks. Lumine even had her hands on her hips as she pouted. Naruto laughed and rubbed his head. Sorry it was rude. Naruto admitted as Lumine scoffed as the three of them started to walk towards the hotel. There was no problem around them at the moment. Oh. We should tell Zhongli what happened. I wonder if he knows about Child's actions. Payman stated as Lumine nodded. Yeah. I am not sure if Zhongli knew Child had his agenda including trying to take Morax's Noises. Lumine sighed as she was still bitter and hurt Child ended up betraying them after they thought they were friends. Can I come with? Naruto asked seriously much to Lumine and Payman's surprise. Sure, but why do you want to see Zhongli? Lumine asked curiously as she golden eyes sparkled with curiosity. Personally, Naruto thought Lumine eyes were one of her best features but decided he would not mention it. I have heard many things about Zhongli and I would like to meet the man himself. Naruto stated simply as Payman shrugged and Lumine nodded. Morax, I would like to hear what is it you wanted to do? Naruto thought as the group continued to walk. Naruto was describing someone very dear to him from Sumeru to an amused Payman and Lumine. Come on. How can a single girl be that popular where all of Sumeru City comes together whenever she performs? Payman asked incredulously floating around Lumine. Nilou is that popular. Matter of fact she has been asked out about 1,000 times or so per month through fan mail or random guys trying to hit on her when she walking around. Naruto commented calmly, although his eye did twitch seemingly at Nilou getting hit on by random guys. Naruto did a quick transformation into Nilou into her dancer outfit as both Lumine and Payman blushed at the beautiful red-headed dancer, smiling politely at the blonde and the fairy. Nilou hair was styled into low twin tails. Nilou's well-formed stomach could be seen along with her very curvy waist and hips, along with a small top that seemed to bulge out due to her well-formed bust. Her dress skirt fluttered in the air as underneath she didn't appear to wear anything showing off her long legs only covered in knee-length golden strapped heels. The heels were not full covering showing off a majority of her legs they covered and were toeless showing her bright toenails. Nilou is okay with your reaction. To be honest since the sages lost control on what kind of recreation is considered useless to Sumeru City, every boy and even girls has a similar reaction to meeting her for the first time. Naruto transformed Nilou's sweet and melodic voice chanted. How can you wear something so exposing? Lumine asked Seaman Jinglu forgetting that it was not the real Nilou but Naruto in a disguise. Nilou raised an eyebrow and shrugged as if Lumine asked something odd. Nilou is a dancer and this sort of outfit shows off her sensual body to the audience and is easy to dance in. Naruto explained remembering Nilou blushing when he asked how she was okay, letting people see her in her dancer outfit even off stage. Naruto did another quick hand sign as he returned to normal, making Lumine and Payman stop blushing, but glared at his smirk. Don't you know anyone who dances? Nilou is the most popular in Sumeru, but surely you two have met someone else who dances on your journey so far? Naruto asked looking interested. Payman and Lumine looked at each other with an expression. Didn't we know someone in Mondstadt who dances? Payman asked hesitantly. Did we know someone like that? Lumine asked confused with a look of confusion as she had trouble remembering. Meanwhile in Mondstadt, a remarkable beautiful tall, mature and busty woman with short blue hair was practicing her tango. The woman was being watched by her dear friend Amber who was clapping happily. The blue-haired woman stopped and sneezed cutely. Eula? What's wrong? Amber asked in worry as she ran up to her taller friend and put a hand on her arm. It's nothing Amber. It's just pretty sudden as I haven't been under the weather all year. Eula stated dismissively. Now shall we tango together? It takes two to tangle. Eula asked as she offered Amber her hand with a warm smile. Amber blushed as it seemed intimate to her, but she shook her head and controlled her blush. No, now is not the time. We need to go back to Mondstadt and get you at something to eat. Amber commanded in her overprotective mother mode, making Eula sigh. Amber comically dragged the taller Eula by the wrist who rolled her eyes but had a small smile at her friend's concern. Perhaps someone was thinking about me in a positive way. It would be nice. Eula thought. Back with Lumine. I dunno if we knew someone like that then we would have heard of them more often by now. Lumine decided waving her hand as Payman nodded. I'm alright. Naruto stated with a shrug. Remember, it's in funny comic about the meme that people forgot about Eula as she hasn't had a rerun and it was only her first one back in 2. 3 and she is finally back in 3. 8, about a year and a half. I decided to add this just so we could have something Eula-like for this chapter and for her rerun. Back to canon. Hey Naruto. Paimon asked as she floated in between Naruto and Paimon. What is it? Naruto asked as he stood several feet apart from Lumine as he had his little fun teasing Lumine and wanted to give her some space. We have a friend in Mondstadt who used to go to the Academia and Paimon was wondering if you met her. Paimon asked with a smile as Lumine's eyes shone in recognition. Are you perhaps referring to Lisa? Naruto asked after a moment of thought. Paimon and Lumine shouted as they shared looks of confusion and shock. You know Lisa? Lumine asked eagerly. Naruto took a breath and dramatically turned around to face them. Lumine was on the edge of her feet in anticipation and Paimon inched closer as Naruto looked serious. Nope. Never met her. Naruto chirped with a smile and a peace sign. Why did you lead Paimon and Lumine on then? Paimon snapped with her arms over her chest and Lumine had her hands on her hips with a pout. What? I never actually indicated I knew who Lisa was. I could have just spoken a random female name and just guessed right for all you know. Lisa is kinda a common name after all. Naruto commented with an innocent smile. Paimon and Lumine's dry and unamused expression made Naruto laugh as he raised his hands in surrender. Alright, I admit I haven't met Lisa before nor has my Archean, but we have heard of the legendary Lisa. She graduated after only 2 years of study and was offered a stable and wealthy position at the Academia by the sages of Sumeru themselves. However, tired of the strict guidelines, she decided to leave Sumeru City and take a new position at Mondstadt as their librarian. Naruto recited rather blandly as if reading from a textbook. Wow, that was pretty concise and accurate. Paimon remarked with her eyes looking amused as Naruto huffed at her tone. So, no, I haven't seen her. She left years before I came to Sumeru and I have been inside Sumeru the entire time I haven't tavid. Naruto claimed as Paimon gave him a suspicious look. Lumine was about to tell Paimon to back off before she focused on what Naruto said. Nor my Archean. Are you saying the Dendro Archean hadn't met Lisa either? Lumine asked as she commented on his phrasing. Naruto stopped walking as he looked down with a look of sorrow that was hidden from Lumine and Paimon. Luckily Paimon and Lumine seemed to have evolved into their own conversation. I mean, Tone Deathbard probably knows everyone in Mondstadt by now. Paimon suggested as they thought of Venti just lazily sitting back against a tree. I guess. He is not very proactive, but he does seem to walk everywhere in Mondstadt. Lumine agreed as they knew he hid his true identity to the point where there were very few people knew the god of Anemo walked among the mortals of Mondstadt. What do you think the Geo-Archean? Do you think he knew everyone? Before you know he died, Paimon asked Lumine with her trailing off in the end. Maybe. It does seem the rite of descension was a big thing, so probably everyone in Liu Harbor would come to greet the dragon each year. Lumine thought as she remembered how devastated the crowd was when the dragon fell out of the sky. Sorry. We got caught in a tangent. We were talking about the Dendro Archean. Lumine apologized as they walked back, having realized that Naruto had fallen behind. They didn't realize Naruto heard everything as he had a small smile when they were talking about the Anemo and Geo-Archeans. The Dendro Archean Buer knows everyone in Sumeru City and most of Sumeru, the actual region. Naruto clarified with a sigh. But not before. People like Lisa. Paimon probed as she floated in front of Naruto. PCH, things are good in Sumeru now, but before I came, let's just say Sumeru was a region of chaos and decline. Things were not stable enough for Buer to intervene herself. Naruto decided after a minute. Naruto then remembered seeing the floating Nahida in her young innocent form, with her eyes closed, sealed away in a sphere. Her young form, a sign of her immaturity of being sealed away and not being able to grow and mature. Naruto clenched his fist, which was noticed by Lumine and Paimon, who looked concerned. Naruto? Lumine asked softly as she attempted to touch his arm. Naruto recoiled before he shook his head and gave them a smile and look of apology. Sorry. Just some bad memories. Naruto admitted as he waved them off. Anyways. Long story short, Lisa left the Academia and Sumeru years before I came to Sumeru, so I don't know her personally. Just her reputation. Naruto summarized as Lumine and Paimon shared a look before they nodded. By the way. If you ever do see Lisa again, please pass this message along. Sumeru is different now and the sages no longer hold knowledge with an iron grip. I can understand if you are happy in Mondstadt, but if you ever want a home or vacation spot, Sumeru is always available. Naruto added with a grin. Lumine smiled and nodded as Paimon grinned. I am sure she would like to take you up on that offer sometime. She constantly comments to me about taking some vacation. Lumine remarked before she took a thoughtful look. Although Paimon thinks her job is kinda easy, as she told us she makes sure to take breaks every day anyways. Paimon whined as Lumine gave her a side glance. I don't think you of all people can call people lazy. You leave all the fighting and questing mostly to me anyways. Lumine thought in amusement. Naruto gave a small laugh, finding the duo rather amusing. If you guys ever want to visit Sumeru, please let me know. I would make sure to give you guys the grand tour. I know basically everyone and everything in Sumeru more or less. Naruto jokingly bragged as Lumine gave a small giggle. Okay, we will keep that in mind. Lumine promised with a nod. As the group continued the walk, they got to the Wangxing funeral parlor. This was where Zhongli was working when we met him. Maybe we will be lucky and he will be here today. Payman commented as Lumine nodded. Lumine knocked on the door as the group waited. One moment please. A very cheerful and chirping female voice sang as Lumine and Payman looked at each other in confusion. I am guessing this is not Zhongli. Naruto joked as the girl sighed. A few moments later the door opened to reveal a young woman at least 18 years of age popped up. The young woman had a friendly smile as she waved to the group. The woman was roughly Lumine's height with long dark brown hair that had crimson at the tips. Her long hair was styled into 2 long ponytails with several bangs framing her face. Her eyes were bright scarlet with a unique white blossom-shaped pupil. Her outfit was the work outfit of the Wangxing funeral parlor, with notable black shorts with golden highlights and calf-length white socks and black heeled dress shoes. Hello. Welcome to the Wangxing funeral parlor. How may I help you today? The young woman greeted with a wink. Well, aren't you cheerful? I am guessing Zhongli works for you? Naruto commented as the young woman's smile grew. How rude of me. I am Hudao and I am the director of the Wangxing funeral parlor. So yes, Mr. Zhongli works for me as a consultant. Hudao introduced herself with a bow. Director, you seem so young to be the boss. Payman shouted in shock. Hudao turned around with a huge grin as she bounced over to Payman, who looked a bit unnerved at Hudao's smile. Oh? That direct personality and floating ability. Along with a blonde female who wears a white dress. Hudao commented with a thoughtful expression. You must be Payman and Lumine the travelers. Hudao shouted as she clapped her hands together. Lumine and Payman exchanged confused looks before nodding. Yeah, that's us, but how do you know that? Payman asked. That's easy. Mr. Zhongli mentioned you. He told me about how you helped him with the rite of parting. Hudao revealed with a happy smile. Sorry I don't you though, Mr. Zhongli didn't mention a third person. Hudao apologized as Naruto shook his head. It's alright. My name is Naruto Uzumaki and you can simply call me a diplomat of Sumeru. Naruto introduced as he put a hand up. Hudao eagerly shook his hand and nodded happily at him. Morax must not want the details of what happened to Oshul known till the Kixing can make a story up first. Naruto thought as it appeared Hudao was told rather recently about Payman and Lumine. He didn't mention it, but in Sage mode, he could sense the vast elemental power of Morax through his vessel in the distance observing the events. It was similar to when Naruto attempted to sense Nahida Akabure, but with geo-elemental energy not Dendro. Lumine noticed Naruto did not talk about his otherworldly connections or that he was more than a simple diplomat of Sumeru, but decided to not bring it up. Pleasure to meet you. If you are his boss, I can understand how Zhongli could such a successful advisor to the very luminous Wangxing funeral parlor. Naruto praised as Hudao waved him off. Oh, stop. Mr. Zhongli was always very reliable long before I was his boss. However, I will take the compliment with a smile. Hudao stated with a smug smile. Her wink did indicate she still considered herself having a large role in Zhongli's dependable personability. She doesn't lack in confidence. That's for sure. Naruto thought with a smirk. Hudao seems to say things that make her seem more important even if it's not really about her. Payman whispered to Lumine who nodded slightly. Speaking of Mr. Zhongli. You are his friends, correct? Hudao asked seriously. I haven't met him yet. Naruto pointed out. You could say that. I mean we have met before. Lumine commented with a frown. Well, if he has nothing but positive things to say to you then I guess it's okay if I share my suspicions. Hudao stated with a serious expression as Payman and Lumine gulped in anticipation. If I didn't know better, I would say Mr. Zhongli is an adeptus. Hudao claimed before she laughed. He seems to know everything and have so much experience, only someone with an adepti-like lifespan could have this kind of knowledge. Hudao commented before she shrugged her shoulders. Zhongli and adepti? Aren't these guys supposed to be super important and reliable? Zhongli can't even remember to bring a wallet. No way he is an adepti. Payman thought in denial. He doesn't seem like Xiao or the other adepti we have met, although I guess Venti isn't someone I would say fits my personal idea of an Archean, so who knows. Lumine thought as Venti's silly smile appeared in her mind. AN4. Wow, little Miss Hudao pretty much nailed the nail on the head. Impressive considering even the actual adepti think Morax is dead and Hudao can't read the world tree. Naruto thought impressed. My guess immortals aren't as stupid as you were as a child. Kurama teased as Naruto resisted twitching in his body but sent a mortal middle finger at the tailed beast who chuckled. Isn't that a bit of a stretch? Payman thought Adepti are supposed to be super wise and everything. The Zhongli we met can't even remember to bring Mora and he is in the city of Mora. Payman shouted, but everyone gave her a dry look. Payman meant land of contracts. That is what Payman means. Land of contracts. Payman stumbled when she unintentionally revealed again her greed of Mora was probably her first priority. Right Payman? Lumine stated rather sarcastically making Payman huff in indignation. You ladies make quite the duo. Hyuda remarked with a chuckle. Mr. Zhongli does forget his wallet constantly and even tries to charge things to the Wangxing funeral parlor, so I sometimes find it easy to just give him a tab instead of pay. Hyuda admitted with a frustrated sigh. Wow, she really isn't selling the idea that Zhongli could be an adepti, pointing out his flaws. Naruto thought with a small smile. However, Mr. Zhongli knows seriously everything. You can ask him any sort of historical event and he could recite it from memory. It almost like he has experienced all these events and that could only be if he was an adepti. Hyuda claimed, but Payman and Lumine still did look convinced. Right. If Zhongli turns out to be an adepti I will owe you lunch Lumine. Payman claimed as Lumine just let out a giggle. How exactly would you buy me lunch Payman? I hold our collective wallet and earn our Mora. Lumine thought dryly. Actually, are you sure you are not an adepti or someone like them? Hyuda asked randomly as she pointed at Naruto. Lumine and Payman looked dumbfounded at the question. Huh? Sorry what? Naruto asked surprised at the question. Hyuda walked over and got within a few inches of Naruto to inspect him as she seemed to vanish or teleport from spot to spot. She looked him over with a curious expression as she seemed to look over every inch of Naruto. Naruto just smiled not minding as Hyuda hummed as rubbed her chin. You kinda carry yourself the same way as Mr. Zhongli. Powerful but holding back. Someone who knows answers and wisdom well beyond your years. Hyuda remarked as she mentally put a picture of Zhongli and Naruto side by side with similar stern expressions. Well, Naruto can't be an adepti because. Payman started before Lumine covered her mouth. SHH. We shouldn't just tell people Naruto is another world traveler. It's not our place to tell. Lumine whispered as Payman eyes widened before nodding. Hyuda gave the two women a curious look before returning to Naruto with an expectant look. Sorry to disappoint, but I will age and die like normal people like you and everyone else. Naruto explained with a shrug as he rubbed his head nervously. Much to his surprise Hyuda gave him a huge smile as she gave him a brief but fierce hug. That is very good. It's nice to meet someone who accepts life has an ending and for mortals, it's not supposed to be infinite. Hyuda all but squealed as she held Naruto's hands with her own. Payman was confused at Hyuda's actions, while Hyuda holding Naruto's hands seemed to make Lumine slightly irritated much to her own confusion. Okay. I guess you're welcome. Naruto said awkwardly finding this young woman both cheerful and eccentric at the same time. Hyuda released Naruto's hands as she rubbed the back of her head with one hand and closed her eyes in embarrassment. Oops, I got carried away. Hyuda stated sheepishly before she sighed. I just don't like the idea of people wasting their lives in the pursuit of trying to extend it or live forever. Life only has value because it eventually ends. Not because people can have an infinite amount of time. Hyuda stated seriously as her eyes narrowed. Payman looked nervous while Lumine looked rather curious. I agree. People trying to live forever is a foolish pursuit, especially when they are willing to go to any lengths to reach that goal. Naruto stated with a sigh. An imagine of a demented Orochimaru appeared in his mind with a sadistic grin before Naruto shook him out of his head. It seems like Naruto speaks from experience. I guess one of those people he met in his original world had a goal of eternal life. Lumine guessed as she glanced at Naruto. Hyuda grinned and gave him a much tighter hug to the point where she happily rubbed her cheek against his. Naruto awkwardly patted the cheerful girl on the back as Payman grinned at him. Lumine twitched watching the display with annoyance on her face. The hug lasted for about a minute before Hyuda let go and winked at him. Finally, someone who understands. People always think I am trying to sell services since I am the director of Wangxing funeral parlor when I talk about death. I am not. Hyuda whined as Naruto gave her a look of sympathy. I just understand the natural way of life and death. If you ever need anything you can look me up. Anytime or any place. If you need a guide in Liu call me up. If you ever want to sample the local cuisine or even just have some late night talks look me up. Hyuda declared with her eyes sparkling and a saucy grin on her face as she looked at Naruto. I will be sure to look you up if I need anything. Naruto promised vaguely finding Hyuda's straightforward attitude somehow both refreshing and a bit thrilling. And Payman and Lumine. If you need anything you have my permission to bug Mr. Zhongli. That guy needs to get some friends and spend less time inside. Hyuda declared smugly. Payman titled her head as Lumine looked annoyed and amused at the same time. Also, Naruto. If you want any stress relievers or late night massages you can call me up. I can tell you accumulate stress a lot, so if you need help relieving these aching muscles, I can think of a few ways we can solve those issues. Hudao promised with a wink and wide grin. Payman and Lumine stated with their jaws to the ground. You are kidding, right? We just met and I am not even staying in Liu for long, Naruto asked as Hudao, wagging her eyebrow suggestively, did not help the not so hidden innuendos. Hudao giggled before she waved. Of course, I am kidding. We barely know each other. It would be inappropriate to offer my first time for a stranger to relieve stress. Hudao commented with a laugh as she slapped Naruto's arms playfully. Did that girl just reveal she is chaste? I mean, by human standards you could do worst for bedfellows. Kurama pointed out. Shut up, Kurama. Naruto clever response followed in his head. Payman can't tell with this girl whether she is joking or not. Payman sighed with exhaust trying to keep up with the eccentric girl. This is creepier than when Lisa calls me cutie all the time. Lumine thought with a shudder. I am just going to pretend you are joking about everything. Naruto decided as he looked around. Hudao giggle into her sleeve made it hard to tell if she was joking or not. I was just joking, but I guess having a first time with someone like Naruto wouldn't be too bad, right? He is pretty good looking and it's clear we are pretty compatible in our beliefs. He is like the complete opposite of Dr. Baizu. That guy won't accept the limits of his own mortality and is willing to do anything to avoid it. Hudao thought grumpily in the end. The doctor and director both thought each other was selfish. Dr. Baizu thought Hudao was selfish, trying to convince people to buy post-life services instead of mourning, while Hudao thought his desire to live eternally was the ultimate selfish act. Lumine coughed with a slightly irritated look, ignoring the smug look of Payman floating near her shoulder. Yes. Is there something you need, exalted traveler Lumine? Hudao asked politely with a tilt of her head. If you were Zhongli boss surely you would know if he is working today. Lumine asked impatiently as she tapped her foot on the floor. Maybe. Fine, Mr. Zhongli isn't working today. He said he had something to do today. Hudao teased before waving her hands randomly. Shoot. It means we missed our chance to talk to him. Payman whined, crossing her arms in annoyance. Is there something you need to talk to him specifically? I could pass the message along the next time I speak to him. Hudao suggested politely, but her eyes seemed to sparkle with curiosity. Sorry. It's something we want to ask him in person. Naruto stated firmly but politely. Hudao pouted before she shrugged. Shoot. Well, can't win them all. Hudao chanted before she sent Lumine and Payman a wink. If you are looking for him, he said he would be at the Northland Bank today. Hudao chirped with a smirk. The bank owned by the Fatui? Naruto asked with a somewhat annoyed look. Yup. Those annoying Fatui. Hudao clarified with a sigh. Wait. You don't like the Fatui either? Payman asked, surprised. They are bad for business. Nobody wants to discuss business when these so-called diplomats happen to walk by. Everyone just walks away, and they had the gall to suggest I chose a more friendly-sounding business model. The nerve of those guys. Hudao growled as her eyes darkened and she glared. Lumine and Payman shared a look as of uncertainty. I don't like the Fatui either, but they do kinda have a point that Hudao is a director of a depressing business. Lumine whispered into Payman's ears. Payman thinks it's still kinda rude even if they are right. Payman whispered back. They winced when Hudao glared at them as if she heard their comments. HMPH. It seems the Fatui are not the only rude ones in Lee right now. Hudao stated with a pout as she looked away with annoyance. Hudao perked up when Naruto gave her a quick one-armed hug and patted her head comfortingly. It's alright. I personally think a funeral parlor is a necessary business. We all what's best for our loved ones when our end is near. Naruto stated quietly. Hudao cooed as she snuggled up closely even as Lumine grit her teeth. Now I know who I like best of Liu travelers by far. Hudao commented, batting her eyes playfully and grinning. Naruto gave a laugh as he let her cuddle his arm for a few seconds before backing off with a pat on Hudao's forehead. Here are my business cards. They have my working hours and how to contact me if you need anything. Hudao stated brightly as she passed 3 copies of her business cards to the group to split among each other. Lumine and Payman looked them over with interest, but Hudao slid up to Naruto and on her tiptoes leaned up so her lips were next to Naruto's ear. But those hours don't apply to you. I scribbled my home address on your copy so you can bother me anytime, even the middle of the night. Hudao whispered with a slightly husky tone. Hudao's warm breath and sensual voice made the hair on Naruto's neck stand up as he shuddered ever so slightly. Hudao backed off when Lumine and Payman looked over. Bye for now. Remember to recommend Wangxing Funeral Parlor to everyone you know. Consider it making us even for telling you about Mr. Zhongli whereabouts. Hudao shouted as the group waved to her as they left. End chapter. So this part ends here. If you want to see next part of this series, like the video now and share the story with your friends. Bye bye.